Oh, we're live, Jack. All right, now I gotta remember to send. Shit. Minute of dead air. What's? Did you read any? Did you read any actual comics this week? I didn't read it.
I did, but isn't the big news the Eternals trailer drop?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you quickly about that, and then one other thing. Yeah, the Eternals. I think it's. I mean, it's kind of what everyone parroted. Like, you didn't see much, and I think it's like a weird property, which I'm excited for because like I'm more excited for them to get like into like the abstract heroes and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it looked nice, and I like the idea that they're doing everything practical sets, like that was all on location.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I don't like. Who knows what that could be?
I'm excited about it. I think like Chloe Zhao, it's very interesting to see someone like with her aesthetic working on a Marvel movie. Like you kind of wonder how that's gonna come to life. And I think like you were saying, like the practical sets and sort of like the widescreenness of it, you think like, oh, maybe that's what she's going for. I have to say, we talked about this, I think, on one of the episodes because we discussed the Gaiman Eternals book, which I think is one of your first like gateway comics.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I got back into it, that was one of the ones I picked up early on, kind of like collection wise.
I might misremember. Because I kind of I mean, I like and I don't like the Gaiman one. I love the whole idea that the Celestials are like cosmic horror creatures, and just like the scene where they're just munching down on deviants. So like, more of that, please. But I think the Eternals are just lame. I mean, not lame. I think the Eternals are like kind of a dry run for the New Gods, and they famously, I don't love the New Gods. So,
right.
I think some of the like. I love that the name of the show doesn't even fit the banner.
Like, where do our names go? That's what's, I don't like that
now. Like they're sort of non-characters. Like I like there's this sort of gimmick of like each one of them is sort of a stand-in for like a sort of a Greek hero or character, and like that sort of gives you everything you need to know about their character. And I guess comics of that time are a little flat like that, so I guess it's okay. But like when you actually dig into it, it's the spectacular design of the Celestials and the sort of cosmic stuff is there's a fun to be had with it, but it's just like it's really difficult to engage with.
Yeah, it's very much kind of like I would be much more excited for a New Gods movie because New Gods feels like the reasoned out Eternals. Like,
yeah, well, they're characters; they're their own people.
Yeah, and there's like threats, and there's because you feel like with the like it's the Superman problem almost to like the 100th degree, where there's like outside of the Celestials and the Deviants, like there's not like a real threat. Like it just feels like unimportant. Especially because like this, they're gonna have to like, and I imagine they will address like why they haven't done anything and why all of a sudden they're stepping in because of the Deviants. And I don't know. I mean, it's like it could be. I am excited, like I said, because I think it's weird, and because she's so excited to direct this movie, and I think she's such a different Marvel director.
Yeah,
like it has me excited that it's going to be like this like weird drama art house movie like under a Marvel title, but I have a feeling it's just going to be like maybe workshop to death. But I mean, it could be. Everything I've seen is like, because a lot of the like promo stuff is like started to leak because it should have already been out. So like I was in the dollar store, and like in the like wall decal section, they had the like Eternals wall decals for like kids. And like I mean, the designs look so boring, and like it just looks like a bunch of boring people. But I like I like kind of the robust and diverse cast is nice. So
Oh yeah, I mean, I think like kudos to them for the casting, like across the board. All for that. But I agree with you about the design. And it's not that it. I mean, I feel like all the MCU movies, like the first one, they always go really lame. Or I gotta stop using that word. They go really like they want something that looks like it's in the real world. You know, they're slightly over designed. Like I remember the first Captain America, they were just so afraid to make like the bright royal baby blue. You know, and eventually they get there. Like I think Thor is a great example.
Right.
You know, like eventually they sort of get over their fear of comics, but they're always so. And I just think that like on this particular movie, it might have been, and you know, it's a trailer. We can't judge yet. But it just may have been like this would have been the opportunity to go more. Was it Guardians of the Galaxy? No, it was Ragnarok, where they had like the characters were just like in these insane costumes, and you know they were really leaning in hard on the Kirby vibe, and I feel like that was a great place for them to sort of zig instead of zag, and so it's a little disappointing to see them conservative on this one. But you know, like again, it's early, maybe they'll change their mind. But can I ask you a question?
yes,
So we got
yes, you can.
we got the Eternals, which I think for a lot of people, you know, like I think the temperature of the room is, oh, we're excited, but we don't quite know what to make of this, and who the fuck are the Eternals? So there's been a lot of like comics discourse about what do we think of the Eternals, and then added to that, I think MODOK is out.
That's what I was going to ask you about.
So like MODOK is also, I believe, a Kirby creation, and so I feel like this was a strong week for the like. Look, as comic fans, we all honor and respect Jack Kirby for the sort of like the amazing influence that he's had over the industry and like the long career. You know, like he's one of the like pillars that our whole industry, the whole comics medium is built on his back. So you know, I would never disrespect him. Like, I think this is sort of like a really interesting week of like, well, he kind of missed the target a few times.
You're not talking about my boy. That's how that is a beautiful man. Yeah. Have you watched MODOK?
Not fully.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. Yeah, I think just the first. It was, I mean, it is the Robot Chicken people, so like, I want to be like, this is just Robot Chicken, but that's what it is. It was, I mean, yeah, it was fine. That's my boy. You're gonna like, he's not that goofy, man. He's a genius. But I get it because he's like, I mean, like you said, out of kind of the Kirby creations, I mean, he's goofy as fuck. I mean, he's just a big, like, baby in a chair.
Is he a baby or is he Humpty Dumpty? Like, where do you think the point of origin is for MODOK's
design? So that's what I was trying to remember. What his actual origin in? Because I know there's a few. Like, I think there's at this point there's like different MODOKs, but. So I've been slowly working my way through the Marvel Avengers video game.
Oh, right on.
And he's like the main bad guy in it. And he was exposed to, I think, the Terrigen mist, and he like grows to that. But because I always thought he was a creation. Like I thought he was like an AIM.
Yeah, that's what I took to. That's what I just assumed that he was sort of like one of their projects who went wrong, who then also was like, okay, I'm going to take this organization where it needs to go.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like there's a fine line, and I mean, obviously, it's a comedy show, so I just felt like the comedy wasn't particularly great. But like the Les Cott, Michael Walsh Secret Avengers run, he was on it. He was with them, like he was working with Shield. He was captured and he was working with Shield. And he was like fantastic in it. And it was like riding that line of like he's a goof, but he's also like, genius who has like ulterior motives, and he eventually falls in love with Maria Hill. He like tries to like ask her out on dates and stuff, and like it was really good. And he like is like willing to give his life for Maria Hill in the end of the book. But yeah, so he's a hard character. But yeah, that show was an interesting week.
No, I think
I forgot he was even coming out. I just turned on Hulu and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I'll try this.
I think MODOK is a great character. Like I think in that sort of like world of preposterous, like in the Z portion of the Handbook to the Marvel Universe, I think like him and Fin Fan Foom and some of the other like Beta Ray Bill. Like I think some of the crazier, goofier characters are a lot of fun. So it's not that I think I just think that like design wise, like there's a lot of love for Kirby, which is completely earned and deserved. But I think like it's not, you can't like, he's not a guy who didn't like trip up from time to time. But I did you like the old Adult Swim Robot Chicken?
At times, I mean, there was like, I think with most people around like our ages, like where for a short while I was like into Family Guy and Robot Chicken and like the Star Wars special and
Blue Harvest.
Yeah, I mean it was like it was fine. I'm trying to share the screen here, but yeah, I mean with anything, I feel like it had some hits and misses.
I think like early on, like the C-Lab 2020.
Look at that original. Oh,
well, all right. Let me walk back what I said. I heard an interesting sort of. They were sort of breaking down MODOK. I was listening to a podcast. They were breaking down MODOK. The guy was sort of like a commentator. And he's sort of saying like there's an interesting balance because he's an egghead and a brainiac, and that's sort of like a natural opposite to Captain America, who's this sort of brawny, like amazing physical specimen. Like it's that old fight I think that like a lot of nerds in particular are really invested in, of like brain, like the brain versus are they chads? Are they the brains versus the muscle guys? And like when I thought about him through that lens, I was like, oh well, it is interesting. Like he's like there's pathos there, like he's a guy you kind of feel like you kind of want to root for, because it is tough being like, I will beat you, Captain America, with the power of my intellect. Oh, curse is foiled again. So I think that there's I think we just haven't had the great MODOK story, or I don't know. I haven't really met that many, so maybe it is out there.
Yeah, I don't like a guy. He's someone outside of this goofy show. Like I don't know how they would work him into their like real world MCU type stuff. I mean, the closest we got was oh shit, I'm blanking on it now. The
Winter Soldier.
What's his name? God damn it. What is his name? God damn it, Jack. Oh, we're terrible. Comic book podcast, guys. I'm looking at his toy right now, and I don't even know.
People who are listening live, this is bonus content because it will all get edited out for the podcast.
But
speaking of great side characters that we wish we could see more of, would you put Nanny and the Orphan Maker in that category?
Yeah, man, Nanny's he's the new MODOK, man.
Right?
Well, until he gets blown up.
I think that there are two categories of this sort of like, there's the weirdo character that somebody wants to invest a lot in, and then who wants to sort of like, oh, you thought this person was ridiculous and now they're sort of cool. And like sometimes that's the fetch that doesn't quite happen. But then every now and then, like someone comes in with a fresh take on someone you were not, like, you didn't have your eye trained on. I think like almost all the people in the Elixir, the Resurrectionists are good examples of that. Goldball, or is his name Goldball? What's his name?
Yeah,
Goldball. Yeah. But Nanny, I think, is like, Nanny's one who sort of straddles the fence where you're like, I appreciate the fun that you're having, but there's no version of Nanny I'm gonna fully go all in on. And yet here I stand wrong again because I'm all in on Nanny.
Yeah, well, he's like, yeah. I think there's the characters, and like the ultimate other end is like someone like Deadpool, where they took and have beat that horse to death, which you could see MODOK going that route. But yeah, like, yeah, Nanny, when well used, and he is well used in this book. Although like I was like looking up like the aftermath stuff, and like just trying to get like when we get to the end, kind of like what people were saying about like the end of the series, and they were talking about like losses that like the X-Men had, and like, you know, Wild Child, and no one like, not one article was like, we lost Nanny. Like, you fuckers, man. Like, this poor guy was blown to bits.
Before we get in, I just want to say I've been throwing around on Twitter the term peak sword, and I just want to explain that. I think it's self-explanatory, but in case, so we've got this idea of peak oil, which is like, you know, this point where you have all the oil that you're going to have, and then everything after that decreases. And I think we have entered the time in comics when we are in peak sword, where there were always characters. Magic is a great example, who had swords sort of like in there. You know, I think Wolverine dabbles, Psylocke kind of. But like now, I feel like in the last 3 or 4 years, we have like every character has a sword. Like, not only do you have Hawkeye trading his bow and arrow for swords as Ronin, you know, like characters who just don't even use swords are. I was looking all over, I couldn't find it. I don't know if it was a fever dream, but I thought I saw Daredevil with one, and I was like, come on, that's not like he's got his bat. Like, he doesn't need.
I could see them going the route of swords versus guns. But yeah, to see Daredevil, I mean, I'm fine with it in terms of like if he picks it up in a story. But like, I know at least like kind of on the like action figure front now, like when they advertise figures, there's like a mandate across the board. I think it started with DC, and I know Marvel has kind of taken it as well. They will not, even if they come with guns, you are not allowed to like have solicitation pictures with the guns.
Oh wow! You know, I never thought of that angle, but that makes sense. So I thought it was
liberal X of Swords comic.
Swords are canceled. No, I thought it was Kill Bill. I thought like everybody saw the sort of like the sword. It's like sword fetishism and also great sword play. And then like, you know, like I think so many creators now are sort of like from that pool of people who were deeply influenced by early Tarantino, and like he just made swords cool in a way that they. I mean, I guess they were maybe always like a little cool, but he made them like broad, you know. But you're right, I guess, like, and because like other people have spoken about this much better than I can, but like the sort of trading off that Wonder Woman did for like, traditionally we think of her as like having the lasso, but I think around Kingdom Come she started sort of carrying a sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like. There's a part of me that thinks like I get it, but there. It's an interest. I don't know. There are interesting dynamics at play with her character as a like she's a warrior, but she's also on a mission of peace, and like the lasso is a magical implement that deals in truth, and truth is a more powerful weapon than might. And but like not to litigate or relitigate any of that. But I like the sword. I love. Hey, look, I have swords in my own dumb comic. But I worry that like the problem with Peak Sword is that there's too many, and then like in the fever dream of Peak Sword, we got X of Sword, or excuse me, Ten of Swords. Well, this is it. This is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah, I mean, and they suddenly like trick you because, like we talked about last time, it's not just 10 of Swords; it's 20.
Yeah, exactly.
I think technically 21 because
one guy's double sworded.
Gorgon has 2 swords, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I was thinking of Nate, but you're right, Gorgon.
Yeah, so does Pog have 2 swords? No, I think he's just one.
Oh gosh, yeah. So the back half, Kyle, what did you think?
And so what we're picking up where we left off last time, everyone
Stasis.
it was so transported to the Citadel, so we got kind of like this I don't remember what they call it, but essentially kind of like the night before, the feast before. Which I mean we can talk about the whole back half, but as a midway point, and you have that like night before with that feast, that might be my favorite issue in the comic. I thought that was a standout. Like you got really great like tete-a-tete, like them trying to figure each other out. You had like every character, kind of like we talked about before, like every character got a moment in that. You had like standout things with like Storm and Death, and then each side trying to kill Saturnine or each other. And so I mean we'll get into kind of like I get bit by bit, but yeah, for a series that built up with this ridiculous premise, I felt and I enjoyed it. We talked about like I love the first half, and it was collecting these 10 swords, and which seems like again kind of a ridiculous idea that you have the X-Men collecting swords, and then to have this contest where half the time they don't even use the swords. It's so fucking good. I loved every second of this book. It was insane, and I am surprised that it is a Hickman book. Obviously, a majority of the battles kind of weren't, and I wonder if that was like them. And that's what I thought was so good about the first half was every creator kind of got to tell their own story within it, and it worked. And I thought that's why it was so well done. Is like it was these people who had been telling these stories up to this point, these characters. They seem to understand how to do that within the Hickman storyline. And then when it came to the actual have the battles, like it almost seemed like Hickman kind of laid off the like very dense world building till it was time at the end, and then it all got dumped at the very end. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I was completely surprised by the second half.
Oh, that's nice. I will say, I think I wasn't quite in real time on it, but there was some heavy resistance. I think the Doug storyline, people they just didn't quite know what to make of it. I mean, I think that like, here's my arc on this story. Like, oh, it's Contest of Champions with like 10 X-Men against 10 villains. And then, like, I was like, but they're not going to actually use swords. They're just calling the champion swords. But then they're like, no, each of them has to have a sword. And I was like, oh, so Storm's going to fight with sword. And then when they actually get to the fighting, you're like, oh, the swords. The may or may not be important. Like I feel like like half the fun of something is being surprised. You know what I mean? Like especially
Right.
at this stage in the game with comics, like where you kind of like so much stuff is built on like our understanding of conventions and you know uh, norms in comics, so that like your understanding of that sort of helps you have a built-in understanding of how the story is going to go, and then to sort of like you're saying, like the sort of like the fun of it being like, nah, fuck this, we're not even going to fight, is just totally a delight. Like it's trolling. It's like the best kind of trolling. It's the best kind of punking. Like I totally was down for it. And then I agree with you 100%. I think that that's sort of like the night before. Um, I I think the storyline perks up a bit. I mean, I think that overall it's great. I think it perks up a bit whenever Saturnine and the sort of like her weird, majestic court of strange and unusual creatures, whenever they appear and are like up to their weird Machiavellian machinations, like the story just like gets a little like everything gets a little better at that point. So this is sort of like the pinnacle of that. You don't quite know what she's up to, and even at the end, I don't fully understand her motives. But it's fun to see her scheme, and then she's like everyone is, Magic is on her own side quest. A lot of the characters are using the break in action or the calm before the storm to position themselves in a better way. The crowning jewel I think of that whole scene is the beautiful sort of poetic exchange between Storm and Death, which is both like a character work fine, but also like a kind of a beautiful metaphor for a character that is like lived long and very like filled with a lot of conflict.
Yeah, I thought she was a standout character in this, and I mean, when she's used by people, I think she's always generally used well. But I think this like really kind of using her as like the elder X-Men and really like the like unwavering stone in that. And I think what's interesting is when you get to the end, like, and it's filled throughout, and I think in the first half you're kind of like, I was like frustrated with the Saturnine stuff in the sense where it was like I didn't know what part she was playing in it. Like I get kind of her ruling the other world and that, and then when the story ends, you realize this is just a Saturnine story. Like this was like you said, she getting kind of what she wants, queen of Otherworld, and the corpse are back, but she didn't get what she wants. So
she got what she needed, not what
yeah,
she wants,
which was really good. And you like, I think when you get to the battle part, like I don't know the last time I was kind of like actively like rooting against someone in that way, like because generally I'll just like read a story and like I'm into it on a like entertainment level, but I'm not like
invested.
Care. But when the I don't remember what they're called, the people from the Sword satellite come, when Nathan brings them in.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh shit! Like I hope they kill Saturnine. But they did not. And that's kind of where like the Hickman stuff comes in, and even that, like I felt that was like the weakest of the original, the first half stories was that one with Nate.
Yeah.
And then they kind of pulled that out at the end, like the Jean Grey and Scott Summers stuff was really interesting, and then obviously that was kind of the ex machina for that part of the story. like bringing those things in, and even that was set up by Saturnine. So I'm not really sure.
She's coaching through this whole thing.
Yeah, like I feel like at some point I'm going to have to come back to this and reread it and maybe get a like next level understanding of it. But
well, so this was a reread for me, and I will say that I think like going through it, not kind of knowing, I never fully understood. I have to admit that I don't like the cosmology of the sort of this version of the Marvel universe. Doesn't like where does Otherworld sort of fit like in the sort of cosmic scheme of things. So like when you would see Saturnine, she was always this sort of like weird wing of the the UK stuff. So when you called her the Celestial Magistrix, you're like, well, I'm sure it's a big title. It sounds important, but you don't really know how does that like where does that put her next to say other cosmic beings in the Marvel? Like could she fight? Like is she in between her level? Is she like could she chat with Galactus? Like where does she fit in that sort of like schema? And I think we leave this thinking, I guess Annihilation, who we've never met before, is a bigger problem than like so I guess she's trying to take Annihilation off the board and successfully does so, securing her rule for another extended bout of time, and then the core is back, which is all to the good.
Yeah, like when you get to the end and you realize it was kind of about Saturnine like cementing her place in this, taking out the threat. And like the only thing that was, well, I feel like there's two things wound up on her was the obviously not Brian taking the mantle, but it's not even Betsy, right? Because it's a different.
No, I think she's Betsy and Quanon. I think Betsy and you know what? I'm talking out of.
But I wasn't sure if that was the Betsy who got defeated or if it was an Otherworld Betsy that came back.
Oh, I thought it was Betsy. I might be wrong on this too. I thought it was. I thought she somehow gets disassembled but not killed, and then at the end doesn't Saturnine sort of start doing? She like takes out the little pieces and starts putting them back together.
Yeah,
I assumed that was.
Yeah, and then she was upset that it was her in the picture, right?
I believe so. Although I think isn't her the nature of her like the reason why she's so upset is because she just wants Brian. She wants Brian to be the Captain Britain, and her lover and like her. What do you call a Magistor? Is it Magistrate? Of course.
A himbo? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I thought I saw, but either way, so that, and then the interesting trade-off with Apocalypse and sending over Arkoa. Yes.
Yeah, Araka.
Fucking names. Which again is the interesting thing. And I wasn't reading this in real time like you, and I read this for this. I waited till the collection came out. So I had no real idea of what people's thoughts were on it. I occasionally caught stuff here and there. And then afterwards in prep, I was like kind of reading some reviews and went on Amazon and was reading like reviews of this trade. And it's like, seems like some people are upset that it wasn't really an X-Men story, which I could give or take. Like, I feel like what I like about X-Men stories is they aren't necessarily always like X-Men stories. I feel like they are people that find themselves in various situations, like even the Phoenix Saga, like that is.
There's that whole bit with the Shi'ar Empire. Like, yeah, like people always forget that is like a huge piece of it.
yeah, like they spend half that time in space. Like I'm pretty sure that big battle happens. It has been a long time since I read, but the big like thing that came out of this for the X-Men was the like growth of the population by whatever, like million or so. So I haven't read after. I don't know what happens. I think it moves to like Rise of X or something.
I started to started to go through some of the Wikipedia entries just to sort of. I know that's not true. I followed Hellions a little bit just because I had such a like I hadn't read it. This was such a good uh, introduction to that book. But it also I don't fully know where the story has gone or where is it now. What are they aiming? Have they mentioned what they're shooting for the summer?
No, I don't know. I don't. That's what I'm kind of like, because even how they're charting this, I know. I think in December, or maybe a little before then, the Hickman X-Men omnibus is coming out. That only collects his X-Men stuff, which again is weird because the way they're collecting them now, they're collecting him in Dawn of X, and I don't remember what the other title is, but like the trades collect like all issue 5 of everyone's.
Yeah, right. Right.
And it's coming out like month by month. So yeah, I don't know what the event is, because again, like I think it's very subtle, but the effects are obviously the merger of the OAs or however they would be, and then the council stuff that was the quiet council, essentially the people who had to step down. And I know there's like somewhere, I don't remember which little Hickman-y news article thing that's featured in it. They mentioned like wanting to not use the term X-Men anymore because it's I put it somewhere. I don't see it, but like it's they're now like a people, a culture, like,
Yeah.
and they're above that. Oh, here it is. Regarding the X-Men, furthermore, it is the suggestion of this body that the familiar moniker of the Xavier School should be eliminated. This council sees no need and only potential complications in the continued acceptance and use of the name X-Men as an active term implying agents of mutantdom. Yada, yada, yada. So from this day forward, the X-Men are no more. I know that's at some point in there. I don't remember where, but you see kind of like does that set up the cracks like that? I think that again that part with Cyclops and Jean was really interesting with the council and how like Xavier still voted against them but was proud of them.
Yeah, that was. Can I we talked about this I think without you having read it yet last week. That felt like a very unscott thing. Like I guess he's in this sort of weird, like he has weird loyalties because he's like, am I my son's dad or am I, the leader of the mutants? So that exchange felt contrived for me, and I like the Xavier voting him down, but also sort of like being proud of like everything in that felt like there was a. What did you think? Because you're a Scott stan.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's Scott in the sense of loyalty to the people on the team, and I don't necessarily. It's kind of like the Captain America type thing where we don't leave anyone
right.
Yeah. Even if it's at the cost of everyone. But it just plays really like, and again, not having read the rest of it either before or after, and only reading Hoxpox, like the Xavier stuff is still weird for me. Like I still not like wrapping my head around his role in this. Like I get kind of this coming together as the ultimate utopia, even though they've already had a utopia for the X-Men.
They've had a few. They've even had a utopia called Utopia.
Yeah, utopia. So yeah, I don't like. I get the council stuff is interesting, and it was like a nice little part in this. I still don't understand the full breadth of it and what is going on, and I'm sure that's covered in the in between X-Men stuff. It's not really important to this story per se, but it feels weird in the middle of it.
Yeah, I'll say, like, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop on Xavier. Whenever a character is fully masked, Zorn me once, shame on you. Zorn me twice, shame on me.
Yeah,
when a character is fully
have we seen him eat a cheeseburger? Yeah.
When a character is fully masked, I am always a little suspicious. Like I feel like that's it's like the gun in the first act. Keep an eye on it in the third. And also there were just a lot of
always keep this on the shelf. It's like it's like one of my all-time favorite covers. It's
and also there was just the visual look of him is
yeah, he has to know. I mean, he made the Maker. He has to know, like, it feels like the Maker. And it might just be that Hickman has a very two-note aesthetic, which is fine. But like, you can't look at that Xavier and not see the Maker, who is ultimately he's a villain. I don't know. He's kind of like an anti-hero villain type thing, I guess.
He's frequently drawn in feminized poses, which I thought was like early in Hoxpox. I was like, "This is Cassie Nova," but then that other shoe didn't drop, and like maybe that isn't the so like who knows? You know what? I'm along for the ride. If it turns out he's X, then
he takes his helmet off, right?
Yes. Yeah. Before this, I think he did, because I was part of a community of people who were like, "Who the fuck is?" Or I'm cussing a lot. Who the hell is this? And then with the mask off, but like Cassie, it's Cassie Nova, right? Cassandra. Like she was a twin. I don't know. Also, I don't know whatever. Like I don't know where she is. I was like, she's a twin. Of course, she can make herself look like him. But again, maybe that's just like that's not what he's Hickman. That's not what Hickman. Perhaps that's not what Hickman is interested in. Or then maybe it is. I think both Xavier and Magneto. I think with Apocalypse, like Magneto becomes a redundancy because you kind of have a more primal version of the Magneto was right methodology. So I think both of them, Magneto and Xavier, are kind of like they're around, but they're also not fully, they aren't as fully in high relief like they have previously been in other iterations of the X book. Also, a thing that you just said about like there are no X-Men anymore. I had heard rumblings from MCU that they did not like X-Men. It's a gendered term, and there's been some kind of. I think mutants is sort of like the way that they've like. I've been hearing it sort of referred like when we get an X-Men movie, will it be the mutants? Yeah, and I think like it's I know that certain people, a certain segment of the comics community is going to be angry because they are always angry about everything, but for a bunch of reasons, like I think. Mutants.
If there is an X-Men movie and they don't call it X-Men or refer to them as X-Men, people are gonna. And again, I could care less if it has, if it has Wolverine and Cyclops and you call it the mutant. Like, what does it matter? But People would lose their fucking minds.
But I've been
It'd be great.
this has been going on for a while, and when they were it was House of X, Powers of X, I was like, oh, this is interesting because I think they're subtly changing it without us realizing that they're changing it. But then when the individual series started up, it's X-Men and what's the other one? I think it's just X-Men and either way. So they're clinging on to it, but I think it's like kitty litter. When you have to change brands of kitty litter, you put like first you put a third in, then you put like half in, and then you fully replace it, and then the cat doesn't even know that it's got different litter and doesn't freak out. So I think that's going on. And mutant overlords, I welcome you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there's someone that can like just make food appear and do other, like, why would I not want? Yeah, or even if they went to like, and I know that's something they've even gone away from, but like Children of the Atom, or like I know in the 2000s was like X-Men Evolution, because they were like switching it to kind of that idea. But I mean, they've been called multiple, and like in the world of the Marvel comics, like again, the X-Men is only the team. Like there's still everyone else is mutants. Like X-Men only refers to that one set team. Even everyone that attends the Xavier school isn't necessarily an X-Men. So you could easily see like a situation where they just abandon that altogether. Probably never in the comics, but you could see that in the movie sense. But I don't know. What should we? Is there any? It's weird because like this is chunky. Like the second half is chunky, but not a whole lot happens outside of kind of the build up to that final. I mean, a lot happens, but it's for the most part like insignificant because the actual tournament like doesn't matter in the end, which I'm fine with. Like I got to see fun, cool stuff. I got to see like arm wrestling matches and dance competitions.
So of the tournaments, here I pulled them up on. Do you guys have the internet? Amazing. I pulled it up on the old internet. Tournaments: Iska the Unbeaten versus Captain Britain. Who did you bet?
Oh, that was. I assumed it. That was such a good way to start it because like that is like that is I think is what you expected the event to be like. More battles and people just to be like killed off, and then to go to contest 2 was great.
I think people. I think word on the street is people like Betsy, or people have always liked Psylocke. Yeah. I think she just got a long run. I think people are happy to see Betsy Braddock back and not just fused Psylocke or Quanon.
Obviously, I think it's kind of smart that because there was always the weird aspect to Betsy becoming Asian in a sense, like going from a British person to obviously within the story of how that happens, but it feels a little iffy nowadays, I think. But
I think in real time, I mean, let's just like the minute we saw Lady Mandarin, like so I think Betsy Braddock's always been a fun character. I think her sort of like her very pink outfits with lots of flowing ribbons and things. I like it's not always a natural fit for the X-Men. But when you saw Lady Mandarin, like, so she goes to the Siege Perilous, she appears, she's brainwashed, she's got this fucking knife, she's being drawn. Jim Lee is now on the X-Men. She's being drawn like one of the coolest character designs in all comics. Like, she was just fucking amazing. She was so amazing. And I think it was a few issues before people were like, wait a minute, is this Brian Braddock's sister? And then they sort of like they explain it they came up with a reason for it. I've always sort of I thought it was like I thought the Siege Perilous can turn you into whatever like you just come out on the other side something else. It never really bothered me. I think maybe the optics are not like maybe it isn't the decision that they would make now. But I also think like it just the character that came out on the other side of that was so great. Why wouldn't you? Like,
yeah, I could see on both ends, and then that's again not necessarily something have a huge issue. Is I think it's like coming out a sexy Asian lady and playing up on that aspect. But again, like I mean, time and place and comics, and again now it seems like they're just smartly kind of able to have their cake needed to
with the two
Betsy
of them.
and
so I think killing off a character like Betsy's sort of newer, or the Betsy version of Betsy is newer, and people are very happy to have her, and I think having her be sort of the first fatality also is like like it's the Spider-Woman move, like when your fave if your fave can die, then no one is safe.
Right. Well, especially to the first, a lot of the first half of the book kind of, I don't want to say centered around, but like that family was a big piece of it.
Yeah.
To have that to be like the first and one of the few actual deaths was interesting. And then again, the first curveball is the trial by wedding. Which
any married person can attest to.
Yeah, which is interesting. I thought it was funny and well done, and I like that they carried it up throughout. Like,
yeah, they stuck with it.
I like Cypher being kind of, and they set it up within that feast where he's kind of intrigued by her.
Yeah,
because he.
Yeah, no. I think all of that was very deft. And I also think Bay is a great character. Then it's Pog or Pog against Magic.
My boy. I thought that again. I thought there was so many little like smart things in here, and again, it was goofy and it was fun, and like again, contest of arms. So it's an arm wrestling competition with this dude with 4 arms versus Magic, and she loses. But then to have it come back later, I thought it was interesting. Yeah, we can run down a bit. So after that is the race to the death with the Summoner and Wolverine, which again,
I thought that was great. I totally loved it.
Yeah, again, it's like a silly, goofy contest, but they set it up like they just did just enough with kind of the stuff they set up in the previous parts to make it interesting.
Yeah.
With that contest of cups again, it was a drinking contest between Storm and Wolverine, but that again feeds into little bits of other stuff, which is the amputation, which is next, which is Solemn versus War with Wolverine, because he owed Solemn
from their little jaunt into hell.
Yeah. Unarmed combat, which is Pog versus Magic, which again I thought was interesting. She figures out that was ostensibly like a suit. His sword is his arms.
Yeah.
So he's this little gross guy inside.
Aren't we all?
Speaking of MODOK, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they just go like they just torture, which I don't think they really show. Contest of Boulders, which is one. Battle Beneath the Waves.
Also, we're flying through it, but Krakoa not doing great. Like
no,
like the other side is definitely like tallying high. And then like again, the stakes are if they win, they're gonna come swarm our dimension.
Right. You get the feeling that obviously, because I think subverting expectations is, I think they set it up in the feast. Like obviously, Krakoa is kind of outmatched, but like in a contest of battle, like you feel like the X-Men they can come out on top. Like they can do
Oh
something
yeah, they're the
to do
X-Men.
it. And then for Saturday Night to turn it into like a fair contest, like with a bunch of like the next one is a eating contest. Like to turn it into this, she's just stacking the deck against Krakoa. So like as just going through it, I think it's interesting that it's set up that way, and again, kind of the dominoes that she's laying out to get it to fall the way she wants in the end is interesting. And again, I think it's a cool way to do it because it is fun. Like you have fun in this like big epic story along the way. Because there's next one's a dance competition. There's a labyrinth escape. There's a jigsaw battle, which I wish they showed more of, but they don't.
Yeah. You just wanted more Gorgon.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Contest of Couture. There's a fashion contest. The Blight Spoke navigation, I thought was another really like any of the ones they like spent time on. Again, they with being in Blight Spoke, you have to give something.
That was also any of the Blight Spoke stuff. I like all that stuff was. It takes a light hand to I think handle it to tell this to weave that sort of like to weave that weird sort of whimsical stuff into the stories. But he did. I thought they balanced that really well because I mean again like presumably we're thinking Betsy's dead at the start like so like it's silly stuff but it's also it's also not silly stuff. One of the Wolverine fights was have we gotten to it yet? Was pretty gruesome or just intense. So like it's a balance of both. Like some of it it's silly, but heavy. Like and that's not an easy. It's not an easy balance to strike.
Right. I think you could easily and I think that's what's again so interesting is it's all happening in fairly quick succession, issue to issue, and I mean you have like again some of the more goofy stuff like plays for sight gags and it's quick and done the jigsaw battle, the fashion battle, but then that will bleed into the Blight Spoke thing, and then they'll pull back to like the foot race, the contest of letters, the rumination endurance with Wolverine and the White Sword.
Now that is when. Oh no! I'm sorry. Later, the White Sword is when Krakoa finally gets racks in some wins.
The rumination one is that the staring contest? No, that's not the. I'll have to check it.
That's not the. Did we already discuss the drinking contest? No, that was earlier.
Yeah, that was Storm and Wolverine. Oh, what is that one? Bear with. Yeah, that's the staring. It's when they're staring into the mirror.
Oh, right.
You can't blink. Yeah, because then there's the resist temptation, and then one of the best ones is the kitten killing contest, which is great. And then it goes to the battle to the death, which again, like on its own, is amazing. Like just to have that. You saw it previously with the dance when she's dancing with Death, but then the actual kind of fight with Death with Storm is like a great Storm moment. Like stand out. And then it goes to the White Sword versus Gorgon is kind of where Krakoa catches up.
Because the lore of the White Sword is he has these 100 fighters that he resurrects. Like they go out, they fight, they die on the field of battle, and then he resurrects them every night. And that's how he was able to save. I can't remember the name. Was it the Pale Tower? Was his sort of like his sentry post in this hell world where they live. So Gorgon fights the good fight, just blowing through those hundreds of fighters. Like he dies though. This is where Gorgon dies. That's the one I forgot to follow up on. Did they in Hellions they resurrect while we'll get to this in a minute. They resurrect some of the people who died off in Otherworld.
Yeah, I think there's the idea that they're going to, but obviously like he dies there, so he would be
he's gonna be scrambled.
But yeah, and again, like I saw one article, it might have been on the Polygon one, where they were like, I gotta look it up quick. They talked about Gorgon dying, and they're like, it doesn't really matter because you don't know who Gorgon is.
I will say,
yeah, okay, here it is. The only mutant to perish in Otherland since the start of the tournament is Gorgon, who you've probably never heard of anyway. He went out strong, and it seems like he'll be getting a weird amalgam resurrection. So maybe someday you'll have heard of that Gorgon. Fuck you, Polygon. Holy shit, he's such a great character. But I get it. He's an oddball. But even that, like, to have his story again be one to catch them up, which again in the end doesn't really matter. But Gorgon is someone who does not want to fight for, like, does not want to owe anyone, does not want to fight for anyone, does not want to be like told what to do, and that's part of like his history as a character, like the God Killer, and fighting against that. So to like be killed by White Sword, who if White Sword chooses to, he can like conscript what's that word? Conscript you into his army, and I believe he doesn't. Is like really interesting. Again, like things that doesn't, like, you could have easily done this story without having all these little moments, and it probably would have been fine for an X-Men. Like, it would have been an event. It would have been Secret Invasion, like we read, which was fine. Like, it had moments, but like I feel like they just went out of their way to tell really interesting character stories throughout this.
And I also think like I love the sort of embrace of like the weirdness of it. Like I think for a long time, this is I think mileage varies, so no offense to any listeners, but I think baseball is a very it's not just that baseball is the thing that it has been for a very long time, but the guys who play baseball, like they're all these sort of, they're just they're not wacky, these are very they're all dudes named Josh, they you knock one out, another one takes his place, and it's nice, it's fun when things get wild. Like out here we had what was his name? I think it was Brian Wilson was playing for the Giants. And he had that crazy beard, and he had this weird gimp called the Machine that would follow him around. Either way, he was just he was a clown prince of baseball, and it was just so great to see that energy. It was so great to see that sort of wild, chaotic energy in a very staid kind of profession. And then I think comics too, particularly comics that take themselves seriously, which is not bad. There's a sort of aversion to whimsy, and these are characters who wear ridiculous outfits and fight, engage in sort of preposterous stories. You don't have to be allergic to whimsy. It's okay. It's okay to let it in. Make those Eternals costumes more colorful, damn it.
Right. And I think that's kind of the way this to tie it to how it all kind of wraps up, and I think much what we talked about last time, and why this is this, I think, a story or an event that we are covering on this, because again, like for the most part, like we are the stuff we do on the greatest comic book of all time that I read this week, last week, whatever. This week, last week is John Oliver. This week is us. Is like they're generally kind of the more obscure or oddball stories that we enjoy in comics, and we cover new stuff. But even then, like I feel like it's generally kind of the more abstract comic stuff that we like, and kind of exploring the medium. And kind of what I harped on a lot last time was like how the general consensus, and I feel like it's probably true, and is the big two being very stale a lot of times in the storytelling, not willing to take chances, which is a legitimate argument. But I, again, to kind of whitewash that over all creators who work within those big two realms, I don't think it's fair, because there are things like this where, again, you can you're not necessarily restricted to tell good stories. You may at times be restricted to tell like different stories because you're working for the big two, but you could still tell interesting stories. And like all this ends, like there is a big battle, but ultimately it ends by Apocalypse submitting defeat. Like he overtakes the Genesis mask, and he just like gives up his army to Saturnine, and like he wins by losing ultimately, because like Annihilation only wants to win, and by like submitting his army he wins. Like it's again fairly anticlimactic in the sense of like a comic book battle. Like,
oh no, I disagree. I mean, I think like the final resolve is, but that last
right.
issue is. I mean, you cannot, like, you get your money's worth.
Yeah.
there's like it's a brawl. There it's hordes of demons. Then they got these big Cthulhu monsters coming out of nowhere. Even Magic, it's like,
Oh yeah.
don't want to mess with those. The sword by sword, I mean the space station makes a Gandalf like you'll see me at dawn. The Captain Britain Corps is restored, and like the final melee is just like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And like when you think the dial's at 11, he takes it up to 12, which is like I think like it's. But again, like it delivers on that. Like it is supposed, like it is contractually obliged to. But the in and amongst this sort of like these big widescreen scenes are these tinier moments, and the tinier moments hold like the even though we sort of know that it's coming, but the switch from Iska the Unbeatable, when she like reverses to the other side, the great, because it's not just that Apocalypse takes the Annihilation mask and puts it on. Or it's not just that Apocalypse sort of, it's that he is also like Apocalypse, the woman he loves, who loves him and hates him, who has sort of like lived with under the Annihilation curse for the last 2,000 years. You know, like their relationship as it is sort of colors the actual like exchange. And then, you know, she thinks he's trying to, but he thinks that by taking the mask he will defeat her, you know, which is like, you know, he's not actually, you know, there's a nice line where he said, explains, I'm not doing this to win, I'm doing this to save you. So like, you know, like those moments, I think without those moments, like it is sort of like, you know, event crossover of yesterday or whatever. But because those moments feel correct, and because like we said earlier, the sort of final, you know, alone at the end of it all, Saturnine sort of like has her little moment. You know, like you get like the stakes are high. It's big. It's you know, it fills the page, but ultimately it's they're smaller, simpler tales, and really well told. Although, hold on, because all the fights are great. The big finale is amazing, but in and amongst this, the Hellions are off on their mad mission. And I enjoyed the whole series. I enjoyed some parts more than others. Blah, 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 blah. It's a big shaggy tale, but Hellions, I think it's 6, which is the second half of they're on a side quest to sort of go in and get the swords before this fight even begins. They arrive late in the wrong place and are kind of gruesomely dispatched by a really creepy host. I don't even know who this character was. He's one of the otherworldly Iraqians, I believe.
Yeah, shit. I'll see if I can find. You keep talking. I'll see if I can find it.
Either way, he's sort of a parallel. Sinister, it is revealed, his mission isn't to actually get this, or he could give a fuck, or he could give a damn. But he is trying to. He knows that there's a bunch of mutants on the other side of this warp tunnel, and he wants to get all the mutant DNA for his, whatever he's up to. This
Tarn the Uncaring and the Locust Vial.
Oh, the Locust Vial, that's it. Yeah, his cadre of kind of deeply creepy. They all wear masks. The one baby that eats, that kind of does away with Orphan Maker. Effective, very effective, and I think the lightness of the first half of their jaunt is kind of nicely balanced by the kind of roughness of most of them make it back. I think Wild Child, in a kind of sad little turn of events, has kind of buys them a little time. And then we get, I don't know if we see it at the end of this issue or not, but because this ends with everybody getting killed. Wild Child does come back. All the people who die in Otherworld come back kind of scrambled. Nanny is really intense now. And Wild Child is I think kind of edging up into Sabretooth territory. Impeth finally Impeth gets his comeuppance for his manipulation of Grey Crow. Sinister comes out and kills the gang, I think to keep them from revealing that
he went there for that, because he sends not Psylocke back. Quanon back. I believe he has something on her.
She's making a not a clone, but a child.
Yeah, he kills her. Yeah, he kills everyone, because once they're back,
they'll regenerate.
Yeah.
But will they not remember that his whole mission there was to get all this mutant DNA?
I would guess not, because I think part of it is what they're only able to get their they have to download to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'd be able to download prior to what they did there.
Right. So that's the.
I think the most important thing is that Sinister got his cape back.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the most important thing. Boy, Havoc lost his hands. I thought the issue got really harsh really quick, but I loved it for it, because I thought it's nice to.
When you cut back to them, Havoc doesn't have an eye, because he had to give up his eye to these the
troll bridges.
Yeah,
bridge trolls. No, it's a bad day for Alex Summers. Not a great trip. Really, really, really love that book. His tone is I think pitch perfect. He's funny when he needs to be funny. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think we talked about last time because we only got the first half.
Yeah.
And they said coming out of it, that was the one where I wanted to go back and read the most. Definitely after that, I was looking at it. They have them out in paper trades, which I don't. I'm a very snobby collector. I'm like, well, maybe they'll collect it, but they probably won't collect it. So I think I'm going to pick up 1 and 2 of Hellions. But yeah, that was easily the standout kind of as for the series. And that one had the most, because of what the content was. I think that one had the most unique voice in it, whereas everyone else was playing their part in the like Hickman orchestra. I think they all had unique voices, and again, I think for everyone coming together to tell this giant story, I think was so well done. And that's again kind of I think you read this and it could easily be read as one person. Like it's so coherent. But to know it's like all these different teams, I think is amazing. But Hellions is the one that I felt like had the most unique voice, or at least one that stood out.
I totally agree.
But yeah, and I mean that pretty much like yeah, like again, I'm fine with it being this story, which ultimately isn't really in the larger scope an X-Men story. It's an Apocalypse story, and it's a Saturnine story, and I mean, kind of what you talked about, I think, with Apocalypse being a part of Krakoa. He's a character, like you said, very much like Magneto. You already have a Magneto there. You have you have Sinister. You have all these things, and you have this like, godlike mutant on your team just sitting on the council, like. And this is such like a poetic way to kind of address that elephant in the room. Like he's gone now. Like he's not there and not really someone you have to account for now. And you didn't do it through everyone fighting him. Like he had this like really nice arc, and like it was probably the best Apocalypse arc I've read. Age of Apocalypse. It's okay. It's good. It's 90s. Like it's fun, but like this is probably the most like overarching or dynamic Apocalypse arc, maybe, as in terms of character.
No, I think I'm sorry, that wasn't a no. No, Kyle. No, yes, I completely agree. I think they fully fleshed out his backstory prior to the backstory we already know. I think the introduction of Genesis and his children was like, as a byproduct, you have these other characters who, varying degrees. Some were slightly more interesting than others. Genesis, I think, it was totally like. I think at the midpoint when they have their little reunion after a long time apart, I was really. She's a compelling character. I think her relationship to their kids was, I both like their hatred for their father as well as their sort of loyalty and love for their mother. I thought that was like, I agree. I think it took a character who I think sometimes gets a little autopilot, and stopped and deepened, the focus on him. And I think like having him, I don't buy that he's gone. I mean, he may already be back. Who knows? Because I feel like he popped up with the Krakoa, sort of the new Krakoa status quo. I feel like he is one of the characters who sort of like came sort of up to become one of the more prominent players. And this seems like a weird turnaround. Like, it does seem for a while that they were edging at a more intriguing relationship between him and Richter, and that seems like pipe that was being laid that is now like contradicted or just completely like it is angling to go somewhere that it does not go. It's Richter, right? I'm not. Do I have that confused?
Yeah, the one from the.
Yeah. so like I'm curious. Like it seems weird. Like not within the storytelling, it's all fine. But from the outside, it's like, I wonder what I wonder what Marvel editorial, what came down from Marvel editorial to get us here, because he did seem like he was one of the stars of the Krakoa age, and to take him out is surprising. So like I guess he's not. I'm sure we'll see him again.
Well, he says it. He says, "This is what I'll see. I'll see you again, or you'll see me sometime, or something." I don't remember.
You see me coming, you better.
As he walks off into the sunset.
You think they're gonna cut his head off?
Yeah. But oh shoot! Oh, did I lose it? I'll see if I can. Oh no, I saved it. Never mind. Because like I said, I was trying to find. I wasn't reading in real time, so I was kind of reading like other people's thoughts.
So what is the consensus?
Well, it seemed like it was fairly mixed. Like I think the people who were buying into the Hickman stuff were already on board with this. It did seem like kind of the X-Men, the old guard. Again, like people complaining it was an X-Men story. So I was looking at like a lot of like 1-star reviews or like lower reviews, and they were the typical stuff. So I found this like 3 out of 5, which I thought was interesting, because it's kind of where, like, I agree with a lot of it, and I would score it higher because of that. So I'll give this Amazon reviewer credit, Stephen Anthony Furio. So if you're listening, I guess congrats. He's 3 out of 5. A tale of not the X-Men. The story is about a magical, otherworldly kingdoms that somehow retcons Apocalypse, or he says his name, and Sevener into a husband of Genesis, Annihilation, and the father of new 4 horsemen. It's got Opal, Luna, Saturnine, Omniversal Magistrix, a bunch of gobbledygook names of kingdoms, random new characters and swords, and it vaguely references the X-Men. I can't remember anybody's names. I'm not saying this is bad. In fact, it's quite good if you like taking notes on 20 odd characters of zero consequence to the overall story and lots of side quests. But it's a lot to unpack, and it barely related to the actual X-Men. And I think like that's 100% true. Like,
yeah.
There's tons of fucking
you made
names.
a great case.
I took, like I said, the first half I took tons of notes, and it was all for nothing, and I loved every second of it. And like, it was, the X-Men were like, they're not side characters in this story, but it's not their it wasn't their battle to win. It wasn't even really their battle to fight. Like, Apocalypse is the one who opened the gate. Like, it was all laid out in the beginning, I think, for you. And so like, I mean, 3 out of 5 is not bad per se, but like, I 100% agree with that person, but I fucking loved it because of it.
I think well, 2 things. I think for what I'm about to say, let me just, for the record, X-Men fan community, I love you and I'm one of you. But the X-Men fan community, like, they are like, it's like heroin addicts. If heroin addicts did like a YouTube, like if every week there was a new bag of heroin and they were like, oh, we're going to try this heroin. Oh, love this fucking heroin. Like every week, they'll squabble about like minor details, but ultimately, like, they are so deeply hooked on the thing that they like. Like I feel like as each issue sort of came, there were like little things here and there that people sort of like, like you either liked it or you didn't. Like when I think Trial by Wedding was the first sort of like, hey, this is not going to be what you think. So some people like were like, I don't know about this, and then but they're back the next week just as strong. And I say this X-Men fan community because I guess I don't like the people who are like, this isn't like the X-Men. I don't have a window into their world. I think the people who are like very pro Hoxpox, very pro Hickman, very pro Krakoa. People who are really liking this new iteration of them. Like I see and hear a lot of that, just discourse through the ether, and I think there were some things work better for me than others. I think as a whole, like I think it's no, it's I love all that stuff. You could have had fewer X-Men in it. I like the worlds are so like even the little glimpses you get. Like every time Saturnine would have her sort of like we talked about the cheese wheel, all the different cheese wedges coming in to sort of like discuss. Yeah. Like I did more like
right.
The Hammerhead people. I want to go learn about them immediately.
Even as like part of the wrap up was like they still addressed like each of those little worlds got like their own type of thing. Like Death was like living in the one world, like overseeing the dead or like the damned, and like someone ended up in the market, and like like, and I think Hickman does this a lot, and I think smartly never delves too far into it, and it's like one of those cases where I would love for someone to delve into it, but like I probably wouldn't if you actually did. Like when he was doing the Avengers stuff, like the Makers and like Ex Nihilo and all that stuff is like, I was like, oh shit, that's really interesting and like a really like cool high concept, but like outside of kind of the what you need to know, never really expands too much on it. And like this, you get like even the White Sword is like an insanely like interesting character, and like you got what you needed from him, and it was enough to tell his little unique story in this larger thing. I'm sure he'll be used to death at some point later on, but like if he never is, like I think like he was able to tell like a really succinct arc with this character. So
yeah, totally. Although I'm also here for Giant Size White Sword #1.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I'll plunk down my $5.
All new White Sword.
All new Giant Size White Sword #1. Any final thoughts?
White Sword. Yeah, I mean we're not a scory show, so I don't really score, but I would say like
how many swords out of sword? How many swords out of 10 would you give it?
Swords out of the 20, or I'll give it XV. No, I don't have anything witty, but I would say, especially because like one of the last things we did that wasn't our normal comic-y type stuff was the Secret Invasion, which again I thought like we were on was a really unique concept, kind of like, or at least I felt petered out, but kind of did something unique. I think ultimately like this is what I like from event books. I don't need world changing things because it's not going to happen, and that's kind of why like Secret Invasion doesn't work for me in the end, is because like what you want you're not going to get. So for something like this, I think is exactly like the right way to do it. So like I would recommend it. I would probably recommend it the way I read it, because I don't know how. Yeah, it's crazy how like it works as a one shot. Again, only reading Hoxpox and this.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like I was out of date on anything.
I completely agree with that. I was gonna say, I might have just old man comic book fatigue. Not comic book fatigue. I love comics, but like maybe old like. I feel like I've lived with the X-Men for a very long time, and you sort of like you have periods where you come in and you're very into it, and you have periods where you kind of like take and this kind of feels like the best of Like it's the best way. Like I don't know that I want to make a monthly commitment to 20 X books, and you don't have to keep involved in all that. I have done that in the past and enjoyed it and loved it. But like again, like 30 years of reading comics. So this, where you have these islands that come up, like Hoxpox and then like X of Swords, and I peeked in on some of the Hellfire Gala, and like that's great because I feel like I did go back through Hellions, and then I think I was reading some of the Mutants because I was so fond of the art, and like stuff's going on and it's good. It's all it's all fine, but like I don't feel like by not getting the tweener stuff, you're not totally missing. Like if you want to engage in that, you can. And then if you don't want to, like I felt super fine. There were a couple things like I wondered, like in general, like but you those are small enough that like nothing that prohibits you from like in a
Right.
quick consult. Like if you feel the need to go back and check Wikipedia, it'll fill in all the gaps. In fact, I think I found out. After all this, Krakoa and Okara, or no, Okara is when they're together. Krakoa and Arako ended up not getting back together.
It's fucking
Like-
gobbledygook names.
It turns out that their time apart had changed them so much that they, they're glad to be reunited, but not interested in sort of reforming into a whole. Which I also like.
It happens. You grow apart, man.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, 2,000 years is a long time. It's a lot of water under the tree. So I would give it, I would say 10 swords out of 10. With the caveat, you can take all the summer stuff out. No, keep the Alex, but like I wasn't as fond of the.
Yeah, I feel like that was the closest it comes to it trying to play it into the larger narrative of the X-Men and whatever else is going on. Like that was something that was like, oh, this is going to be important afterwards. Which again, like I'm fine with, but I'm also going to wait. Like I'm not dying to find out what happens with the Quiet Council, and I mean I am interested, but like I'm not. It wasn't.
Yeah,
to give or take it.
We have a thing in my home. My partner usually does the cooking. He's a very good cook. I'm a very good eater, so we're well matched. So when he prepares
of a couple.
Say what?
It's a real Arcoa of a couple.
Yeah, exactly. So when he makes something, I will give my Yelp review at the end of it, and my Yelp review is always 3 out of 5 stars because like nothing is so good it gets 5 stars. Like nothing in the world is good enough. Like that would be the platonic ideal of food. So, and then like it has to be really stellar to get 4 stars. So like everything gets 5 stars no matter how good or bad it is. Sorry, we were talking. So maybe the Amazon person, like that's their way of saying like, this is great. This is exactly what it's supposed to be. 3 out of 5 stars.
Exactly. That's why.
Like you'd say like Shakespeare. Shakespeare is the 4 out of 5 stars guy. Like
don't go on really don't go on my Goodreads where everything is 4 or 5. Loved it. Great. I read it. But part of that is like, and we've talked about it, is like at this point I don't go out of my way to read things I just assume I'm not gonna like. Like I'll give something a 3 if I thought it was like a waste of my time, but so I feel like I'm not gonna read things that aren't of interest to me.
I will say when I started making stuff, you start reading reviews of your work. Then I started like, that like, you know what? If you don't like it, just don't comment. Like, just walk on by.
Yeah.
Because I left some, I would say, mean as a younger person, I left some mean Goodreads reviews just because I'm mad.
Oh, I did some reviews as an actual reviewer. And even
Really,
then,
have you ever taken the gloves off and?
I wish I could find them. I don't remember what site it was for. Again, I don't think I ever scored anything fairly low. And I had stopped doing reviews because I was going to score something low, and I said I'm not going to do it. Like, I was just not going to score it at this point. I'll just say like it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But there was a book. It was called Hacktivist, and it was by I don't remember the team, but Alyssa Milano was involved.
Oh.
And like I did, that wasn't of relevance. Like wasn't like, oh, she shouldn't write a comic.
No, known comic fan.
But I was like, it was just like an okay book, and I rated it okay. And I had made some like punny comment at the end, and it got quote tweeted by one of the writers. I was like super excited. I was like, oh, cool. Like,
hey, free exposure.
And it wasn't. And again, it wasn't like I would never, like, if I didn't give anything, like say a 4 or a 5, if that's what your rating is, like anything below that, I would never tag somebody. That shit's like real skeezy.
Oh, okay, so like when you're an artist, you go to portfolio reviews, and the people reviewing your portfolio are not like it's like watching judging in reality shows where the judges are like, like a part of their shtick is how brutal they can, not brutal, but like how, like what they're showing you is how precisely they know what you're supposed to be doing. So like, I think when you go through, and like if you go to art school, like you usually have like group critiques, and like I think early on you have to develop a very thick skin. So like you learn how to like not take that stuff, like you just learn how to manage that. I do. If you want to say, like, I think criticism is valid. I think criticism is sort of like, there's a lot of stuff that I am like, we talked about you're Invincible. Like it's okay to be frustrated, or I mean, like not everything has to be up with boosterism. But I do feel like when you're tagging someone, you're acknowledging that there's a personal connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that is the sort of like, hey, did you hear this person called you a jerk? Like no one does that in a row. Like no one goes up to you and is like, hey, your coworker, like you wouldn't believe the things they just said. That said, I don't want to name them. I saw a review on Twitter. Someone posted a review that they had written, and in the sort of like review, like log line, like it was a burn. Like, so like I was like, I'm on the one hand like. Reviewers are not obliged to say nice things, and if you want to give a fair review, sometimes like, I guess that's a part of it. But then on the other hand, I'm like, man, you see that, you're like, do I even click?
Right. And so I found it. It was on because Comic Book Roundup, that website.
So, wait, that's the aggregator, right?
Yeah. So I found it. The site's not active anymore, but it saves.
Oh, it's not? The site you had initially written it for.
Yeah. It saves the last paragraph. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. That's not, to me, that's not terrible.
Hey, that's like my restaurant Yelp review.
And so I'll just read quickly. I'll just delete the last paragraph. You tell me, like, this is. So if the topics covered in Hacktivist interest you, then you might be able to bypass the slow start. But if you go in with no added interest, there's little to be had here. This is the only issue 1 of a 4-issue miniseries, and if some of the ideas are fleshed out more, it could come together in the end. However, a first issue is your chance to grab a reader and make them come back for more, especially with a book that only has 4 issues to tell its story. and hacktivist just has no bite to it. This was the quippy thing. So there was like so it's obviously about hacking, and at some point there was an XE program called .save yourself, and it was .sve _ yourself, like with the letters and numbers. So I wrote, most readers will want to .save yourself the $3.99 and wait to see how the story pans out as a whole. Like, that's not bad, right?
No, I think you're still saying, hey, check it out. Don't
go. If it interests you, and like also because I hate, and then again, that's like reviewing first issues, like especially with something like a Marvel book or a DC book, like it takes a while, like a lot of times, to gain traction in the way you want to tell your story, and like it may not be there the first issue.
Yep.
So it's tough with like 4-issue minis, not only to tell a story in 4 if that's not necessarily how you plan to tell your story, but also to judge if this is going to be a good story. But ultimately that's why I stopped doing reviews, because I hated because that would be my review of that book, was like, it wasn't for me, but this topic might interest you, and it also might, the second issue might be fucking great. So like, it's fucking wasting my time reading this when I could review the next one at 10 out of 10. Like, what do you want from me? But no, I don't know.
Kyle Overkill, ambiguous reviewer.
Yeah, so
that should be your like, what do you want from me? That should be your Twitter profile.
You tell me what it is, because I don't know. But that will wrap our X of Swords. So next time we will get back to
the greatest comic books of all time.
Yeah, we'll get back to kind of our normal programming, and then we'll explore maybe some other, like, either event or I know we talked about doing a manga.
Yeah.
Which even that, I think, will be an interesting thing we're talking about. I don't know if you saw the discourse.
Oh, it was. How could you miss it?
About the manga, which is really interesting, because I don't ever say, outside of, like, there's times when you have to say it to, like, I don't know, like even in this, like, saying we're going to pick a comic from Japan, necessarily, like, it seems easier to say manga, but when I'm talking about like it with people, I'll say like, I was reading this comic or whatever. But so that's an interesting idea. Maybe we can cover when we do it. But you have calling it comics versus manga and all of that.
Yeah, actually, I would like to, because they're streams, right? Like you got like even if you like. Let's hash that out. Yeah, because I feel like I think from a distance everybody thinks it's all the same. So like you would maybe go to the Barnes and Noble section, which is not a comic shop, but they'll have like graphic novels, and usually manga is, if it's not in the. How do you guys do it?
Like ours is set up like graphic novels is on one side, and literally the back side is manga.
Yeah, and you could in theory, like, you could have people who never turn around.
Right.
And then I did, like, I think over the years going to comic conventions, like cosplay, I think in manga and anime dominates over comics. And that was when I started to kind of like think like, oh, and then either way, but you know what? Why are we spoiling that episode now?
Right. But that won't be our next one. You were teasing maybe.
Oh, was I? I think it's my pick if it's not your pick.
Barry Windsor Smith. Did you get the autograph edition, or is it the regular one?
No, I got the regular one, like a chump.
Yeah, I was tempted, but I was like, I have $70 for an autograph that, like, I don't know if I'm past that in my life.
I think they're nice. I mean,
I
I
say
think
that as someone who's coveting my Mark Brown autograph, but
I did pick up. Weirdly enough, never. Not shouldn't say never, but weirdly enough, it had. There we go. Turn on the light. Oh, it's my laptop that makes that. These Barry Windsor Smith covers, some of the best covers in comics. Look at this Shadow Cat. Look at that.
yeah.
Get that glare. Yeah, man, he's phenomenal, true artist, and like I have to tell you personally, hearing that this book took him 30 years to make, I was like, it was medicine. It was medicine to me.
Yeah, I felt bad because it took like 30 years to make, and then it took like they kept because of COVID, they were like delaying it for a year. I was like, get this fucking book out. But just yeah, thumbing through it, I read the first couple pages in anticipation of sit down and reading it. It's, if anything, again, I don't know what the story's going to be, but it looks fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard good feedback on the story, which I have not completed because it's 200 pages.
I mean, I picked up a book today. Don't know if it's something worth covering, but Turtles Don't Do Drugs.
A rap song.
Which is it's a picture book. So I don't really know if I'm supposed to rap when I read it, but so I think I might be missing something. Maybe it came with a CD.
Like with a record? Or CD.
I'll have to look into it. But
come on, Kyle, spit.
It is problematic.
Oh.
I mean, it is very like Reagan-y, Clinton like. So not a good look for the Turtles, but I'm keeping it. But we will return with that. What do we got?
Next week, do you have your creator lined up for next week's episode?
Oh, for what's going to be on Pages and Panels?
Pages and Panels.
Yeah. Let me look it up. There was one we recorded and we've been sitting on. Oh, yes. It is going to be Glenn talking about Chartwell Manor out from Fantagraphics. It actually came out this week, but that will be up next week, which Glenn is like an old school like comic like in the indie scene, and this book is about his time at Chartwell Manor, and there was a what's the term? I want to say pedophile, but pedophilic head of the school.
Oh, okay, right.
Abusing the boys at the school. Glenn was one of them, and it's like an interesting biography about his time there, and then also sensibly his life from that point up until the book, and like within the book, it charts him attempting to create this book. And like that. So it's really good. It's again an interesting interview. We don't do any of the George Lopez stuff because I was like, I'm not doing that on this episode about.
Wait, that's a shtick?
No, we just didn't plan to talk about George Lopez that one.
Right. Hey.
But that will be up this week, and we have a couple others recorded and scheduled, so those will be down the road. So a pretty good clip.
Awesome.
What are you doing, Jack?
What am I doing? I'm the same department of nose picking and butt scratching.
You are.
Can follow excitedly at the Villainist on Twitter, or Reckless Eyeballs on Instagram. Why are they not the same? Wouldn't that make it easier? Yes, it would. But Twitter won't allow as many letters as you need to spell out Reckless Eyeballs.
Oh, that's weird. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, we're at Pages_Panels or at Kyle Overkill, which that's probably easiest because I use that and I forget to do. the Pages and Panels account. It's something we had started last week, and we're going to carry over, and I guess kind of, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Cultivate it into a way to actually do the giveaway, but multiple ways to enter the giveaway or be part of it. I don't know how the terms. Leave a review on iTunes and let us know you did that, either on Twitter or email, or subscribe on Spotify or subscribe on YouTube. Anyway, any sort of way that someone might follow something. And if you do, take a screenshot and just tweet it at us or something like that. And we will, I guess, maybe put some names in, and we can do it over time. And last week, Jack put up, was it Dracula Motherfucker?
Yes, hold on, I think.
Okay, that's the title, right?
Yeah, Dracula
Motherfucker. From DeCampi and
Erica Henderson. A beautiful, look at this beautiful, look at this hardcover.
That was a nice sound.
Yeah, I know, right? You're next time you're called into a Ten of Swords tournament, you got this on your funk. You're gonna win.
Yeah. So maybe what we'll do is like every time we'll add something to it, and then I don't know. Maybe at some point we'll do it, and then you'll get picked based on how would you pick. We'll figure out, but do it, and that'll at least enter into it. So I'm going to be adding to it this week. And to go along with a mainstream thing, I'm going to be adding the Scott Snyder, The Black Mirror hardcover with Jock and Francavilla, which I think is maybe the best thing Snyder's ever done. Definitely with Batman. It is a really cool detective story with Batman. A lot of cool stuff with Gordon's kid. What is his name?
The boy.
Yes. The weird psychotic boy of Gordon. But this is, like, again, I think kind of in the way of what we're talking about, X of Swords. I think it's a really interesting Batman story that doesn't necessarily need to be a Batman story. It's just a really great kind of noir detective story with Jock and Francavilla, who I don't necessarily think are the most atypical comic artists either. This is the hardcover version, so that will be in there. I'm not getting the fucking trades. Actually, and I have I have the trade, I have the absolute, so I'll put the hardcover in there. But so
just leave us a review. Throw us some stars. As we said, 3 out of 5 stars, terrible. 5 out of 5 stars, great.
Yes, nothing below 3. We'll take 3 out. But that is, I think, this episode. Yeah. I don't know. We don't have like a send off.
Yeah, we got to figure out the deplane or land the plane or.
It's gotta be something with the greatest comment. Like, I don't know.
You know what? I should listen to a podcast and see.
No, I mean,
somebody else has figured this out, I'm sure.
Well, all right, we'll enter. Ian said the best he can do is 4.25.
Oh, hey, Ian.
Rating, yeah. I mean, if that's based on my Goodreads, that's a best. That's one of the best things. Although I feel like my 4s are would be someone's equivalent of I don't know. It was okay, and then my 5s are it's pretty much. I give 4s and 5s, and then I think I've given 2 3s. Which, by the way, I don't know if people use Goodreads, but I've become obsessed with it.
Oh wow!
And I love it because I use it to track what I'm reading, but also to like find new things. So if anyone's using Goodreads, I think if you go to goodreads.com/Kyle Overkill, that's how you go to my thing and friend me so I can find. I want avenues to find more books. I don't really care about my garbage reviews on there because I don't even type reviews because I'm fucking lazy. But.
Two things. First of all, we'll do a I scratch your back, you scratch mine for Ian Mondrek. What's his Twitter handle? He has he's got a ton of comics, but currently you can get he's got a subscription, one of those subscription email. That's Ian_Face. Ian Face. Sign up for his. He's doing something cool. He'll have like an image. It's like. Did you ever read The Mysteries of Harris Burdick, the kids book, by the guy who did the art for Polar Express? It's wonderful. He's a beautiful artist. So each page has like a sentence, and then on the other side of is a illustration, and it's supposed to be like a writing prompt. You just based on that sentence and that illustration, you make a story. So what Ian is doing is like he's putting these. He's getting a piece of art, and then he takes that piece of art, like he just comes to him blind, and then he writes a story for it. And I think the second one is coming up tomorrow. But definitely subscribe and check it out. And then 2, Goodreads. I did a giveaway on Goodreads. We were trying to think of like out of the box ways of like getting people to read the comic, and you can through Goodreads you can do a
do the giveaway.
Yeah. No, it was nice. It was.
I'll have to rate Gun on there. I'll give it a 4 or 5.
2 out of 5. 3 out of 5.
If you see a 4, and yes, I'm very proud that I can read. I like to talk about my ability to read whenever I can. Ian, people should know that I
bragging.
Yes. Comics, they're short, but I can read them. Yes, I think that's it. Follow. I don't. Again, we don't have an end. We will be back on the. These are things we should look at ahead of time, but we don't. We will be back on June 10th. Will be the next episode again. Next week will be a Pages episode that will be up interviewing Glenn Head, and then Nothing gets a 5 out of 5. That's.
I'm with the Nothing gets a 5 out of 5.
I know there's like people that do. 5 out of 5 is like.
It's perfection.
I love.
No, I'm kidding. I only give 5 out of 5s. Like, why bother with anything like it's all just good cheer and love.
Yeah, this is a Tomb of the Red Horse. Like it's a 4.
What do you think the next one's going to be? Blue Horse? I'm pushing for Blue Horse. Let's start a betting pool.
It's going to be black, right? They didn't do black yet. Was it red, white, black?
It's,
yeah, maybe if it's
pale,
red, white, and blue.
Pale,
like
dark. Pale, dark, and black. That's the way he gets pale, dark, gray, and black.
If it's red, white, and blue, then it's like a surprise, like Uncle Sam story.
No. Turns out Ian really likes
Paul Revere. That's Paul Revere. He wrote a horse. That's what it is. Well, now that we've given away the ending,
sorry, spoiled.
We will end it. And if you're listening to this on the audio version, like I said, every other Thursday we are live on YouTube, maybe Twitch if I figure it out, but I'll announce that if that's the case. Confuse it even more, but we will sign off. Thanks for listening. Yeah, we figured it out.
Here.